Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for your testimony. You've had some very fascinating discussions, including the importance of fostering American leadership here in this field, to the potential to save drivers' lives, which is a goal that we all have, and certainly the fuel cost savings, which is important. And I'm from Ohio. We have the 7th highest amount of centerline miles in the country, so there's a lot of trucking and just transportation generally going through our state. And all of these are really important, and I really want to focus on the safety of our citizens here and the public safety. In particular, I had a meeting with some local elected officials, and one of the township trustees from Macedonia Township back at home, who is a former law enforcement officer, highlighted the many trucking accidents that he saw in his former profession, where heavy trucks were part of crashes and death and destruction followed. And he talked very graphically about what it was like for him working on that, and shared concerns with the increasing weight of trucks and how that impacts these crashes. And so if you could talk a bit, and maybe Ms. Chase, this is a question for you, about the safety of autonomous trucking with these very heavy trucks, and what does that mean when our law enforcement officers or individual citizens are potentially impacted literally and physically because of an accident that might happen on a highway or a roadway?
Thank you so much for your question, and thank you especially for bringing up the perspective of law enforcement and crash victims. I think those are two essential voices to have when we're talking about truck crash safety and also autonomous trucks. So when we consider autonomous trucks, we really need to think about a number of factors, including the roadway environment, the skill level of a safety driver behind the wheel, and also the different impacts such as weather and some issues that have been brought up today. I want to talk about what you just raised, which is truck size and weight. You can't defy the law of physics. If you have a heavier truck, then there is going to be more of an impact in a crash and when a crash occurs. So I think it's really incumbent upon our leaders to pay attention to when special interests are asking for exceptions from truck size and weights, that there's a very real-world consequence when these trucks are made heavier, and also in the realm of autonomous trucks.
Thank you for that answer. And again, staying on the topic of the human element here, a couple of weeks ago, I introduced an amendment with a bipartisan amendment to ensure that there were signs in new builds to acknowledge human trafficking. And sometimes our truckers are our first line of defense against human trafficking. Unfortunately, in Ohio, we've seen a lot of it, probably just because there's so much transportation going in and out of our states. But I know that we will lose some of that if we do not have human beings engaging in this in the same kind of way. But I want to pivot a little bit for the sake of time, because there's a little bit of conflicting evidence about how this will impact people's jobs and whether or not we will see a significant reduction in trucking employment. And I have my thoughts, but I want to hear it from all of you. Again, I represent Ohio's 13th congressional district, and hundreds of workers in Copley and Richfield were recently laid off by Yellow when they shut down abruptly last month. And so my question to really anyone who is willing to answer it is, can you truly look me in the eye and tell me with any degree of certainty that we are not going to lose jobs, thousands of good-paying jobs in Ohio's 13th congressional district in Ohio and across the country due to autonomous vehicles? Because we are, all of us as members of Congress, we have to ensure that we have the space for and an environment for jobs. People are talking to us all the time about jobs, how much things are costing, and if people don't have a job, they obviously cannot pay for the goods and services, the rent, the drugs, the prescriptions that they need. And it makes me uncomfortable to go back home and to look at truckers who had just been laid off, to say that we had a hearing on autonomous vehicles knowing that they need to be absorbed into another trucking company, but Congress instead is looking to automate their jobs and they may not have anything to go to. So if anyone has a response, I'm sorry, I know I took a lot of the time here, but happy to hear any response we have in the next 6 seconds.
I quickly will look you in the eye and tell you that displacement is not a concern. We see zero evidence of that other than baseless rhetoric and emotion. We are not seeing any evidence of that. And the reason is that we have a shortage of talent. It's a growing shortage of talent. As long as that exists, innovation has a place to thrive in terms of supplementing our industry's ability to meet economic demand. I would also point to a 2021
The gentlewoman's time has expired.